So there's this reel going viral on Instagram with this model chick who's been here in Poland for 5 years and brags about the fact that she still hasn't learned Polish. And the comments are definitely a mixed bag. For example, how can someone live in a foreign country and not learn basically anything? And she responds, I think in my case, it's difficult to integrate with Polish people, so I'm basically surrounded by other foreigners who also speak English. And to be fair, I actually think that that is a legitimate point, and I brought this up on some of my videos as well. But then a lot of the other comments are like, why live here if you're not trying to put any effort? So basically you're lazy F, and then her response, which I thought was quite arrogant, whatever you say, Przemek, whatever you say. And I don't think she's really apologetic about it because she pinned this reel to her page. And she even made a follow-up reel talking about how, you know, that other reel went viral and kind of calling out her haters. And it's interesting because in the comments, you have a lot of Sims that are talking like, no, just stay here. I love you, girl. You're beautiful, all stuff like that. Man, I would kill to be a hot model looking girl for one day. A lot of things are forgiven just because of the fact that you're hot, right? I don't think she expected the backlash that she was going to receive, but the fact that she didn't take it seriously and kind of is mocking all of her haters, as she says, even though I think all of them have totally fair arguments, makes me feel that she's not really sorry at all, and she's probably not going to try to learn the language either. But I think this brings up a more interesting discussion about just the Polish language in general, so let's talk about it. So this is going to be a big problem for Poland because I've said this on my channel all the time. We're seeing the development of separate societies building in Poland right now. You have all the Russian speakers, so the people from the Sun countries, or Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, they all kind of hang out together. And then you have all the Western foreigners who only speak English, we all kind of hang out together. And I'm gonna be honest, the majority of these people do not learn Polish. They've been here 3 years, 5 years. I know a guy who's been here for almost 15 years and still doesn't learn Polish, and I called him out on his channel. I'm just gonna leave it at that. We have a lot of Indians that are migrating into this country, and I actually think that they integrate quite well. If you notice at like the McDonald's, there's a lot of Indian, Pakistani workers, and they all speak Polish. There's a lot of Turkish, Azerbaijani people here. They mainly stay to themselves, but a lot of them do eventually learn Polish as well. You have a lot of Asians who are here who do hang out with themselves, but they also integrate quite well and they do learn the language. And then you have the local Polish people, right? Having separate societies like this is okay if all of them buy into the Polish culture, but if some of them refuse to learn the language, that's gonna cause a lot of issues in the future. Poland, compared to many countries around the world, their language is like one of their crown jewels. They are so proud of it. They had all these struggles in history, but their language is one of the things that unites everybody. Poland was off the map for 123 years and it was illegal to speak the language. That's why it's quite a miracle that this language has been able to survive after this long. And that's why I understand why Polish people are so protective of it. Because they are so protective of it, they have this gatekeeping mentality, almost condescending mentality towards people who don't speak perfect Polish. And I think this is definitely the wrong approach. Poland is immigrating a lot of people to fulfill some of the lower tier jobs like delivery drivers or working at McDonald's that a lot of Polish people may not want to do. This is an inevitable reality of countries that are becoming richer. So it's gonna happen regardless. I do think it's a foreigner's responsibility to learn the language, but I also think it's Poland's responsibility to make language learning accessible. Because Polish has such fame for being such a difficult language, and I'm not gonna lie, it's hard, but I think the difficulty level is often exaggerated and it's almost like a badge of honor for Polish people. And that only in turn makes people not motivated to learn the language at all because the mentality is like, all right, well, it's extremely hard. Why am I gonna put the effort into learning this extremely hard language that I'm probably never going to get? This is the main contradiction. You can't yell at people not learning the language, but also not have good resources or pathways for people to learn the language. It's like telling a kid to do something, not teaching the kid to do it correctly, and when they do it wrong, you yell at the kid. That is a terrible approach. So I've been here for about 1.5 years and I've been learning Polish for about 9 months. I'd say I'm comfortably at a level A2 right now. I know a lot of words, I can read a lot of documents. Learning Polish is difficult, not just because of how large the language is, but the resources that we have to learn the language are mostly bad. And a lot of TV shows that have Polish audio, for example, like American sitcoms like Friends, the English is not totally taken away, it's just brought to a lower level and they put the Polish audio on top.
Nie rób tego. To gorsze niż kciuk. Moim zdaniem to niesprawiedliwe. Dlaczego?
If you hear two languages at the same time, one of them is a language you know, and one of them is a language that you're trying to learn, your brain is automatically going to tune into the language that you know. So that makes that an ineffective way to really learn the language. I haven't been able to watch sitcoms, so that's one. Number two, in a lot of shows that where the Polish audio is good, such as cartoons, subtitles are totally different, which also makes it extremely ineffective for trying to learn the language. This is so important because once you get to a certain level in Polish, like where I'm at right now at A2, make the jump to B1 is just tons and tons of input and learning new vocabulary, and that includes consuming a lot of media. But all these TV shows are completely ineffective because I can listen to it in English and put Polish subtitles, and that does help with reading and vocabulary to a certain extent. But if I want to improve my listening, I want to know what I'm listening to. And with Polish, because a lot of the sounds sound the same if you're not familiar with it, this is why you need the Polish subtitles. And this is one of the biggest problems. So if you try to watch a lot of older Polish shows, it's very difficult as a foreigner to consume because there's a lot of like inside jokes about the culture that you don't really understand. And a lot of these shows don't have English subtitles, so you're jumping straight into the deep end with some of the most complex Polish words ever. I recommend watching cartoons when you're trying to learn any new language because these shows are made for kids, which means that the topics that they talk about are not very dense, right? You're not gonna be talking about politics or anything too crazy. It's just kind of everyday stuff. The best show that I've seen so far is watching Pokemon because Pokemon is one of the only shows where the audio and the subtitles are the same. I also recommend watching Avatar: The Last Airbender because the dub is extremely good, but like many other shows, napisy, the subtitles are not the same as what they're being spoken. Something that I do recommend though is playing video games. And this is something that I love about this country. A lot of people my age and younger, we all grew up playing video games, and it's something that we can bond on. And there's a lot of famous video game companies here in Poland, such as CD Projekt Red. So Cyberpunk 2077 has a very good Polish dub and subtitles that are the same. Death Stranding also has Polish audio. God of War doesn't have Polish audio, but they have Polish text. And my PlayStation now is only in Polish text. So that's actually a very effective way. This is something I think is Poland's fault and they need to fix because yes, you want foreigners to learn your language, but if the tools available are not working or ineffective, then that's not really our fault as a foreigner. That is the fault of the people who are making the subtitles and everything. Something that has also helped with me is listening to a lot of Polish music. And Polish music is actually surprisingly very good. I think a lot of the pop stuff is kind of but Polish rap is fantastic. A lot of the older Polish rock songs are also very, very good. Reading those lyrics and listening to it allows you to learn new vocab and say it in singing speed, especially the rap stuff. A lot of people are just not used to the movements of the mouth, so that makes it very difficult. So I had a discussion about this with a popular Polish streamer, and she made the argument that me, because I'm a Western expat, I'm in a privileged position and I'm able to afford Polish lessons. And to be honest, I do think that is a fair argument. Polish lessons are actually quite expensive. Now, let's say you're a foreigner, or let's say you're a migrant trying to find a better life for you and your family. If 1/4 or 1/3 of your monthly income is the cost for Polish lessons, it's so expensive. Of course, a lot of people just can't afford to have lessons like that. What do you think is gonna happen? Of course, a lot of people are not going to learn it, which is why I think the government needs to offer free lessons to foreigners to help them integrate into the society. Yes, it is Poland's responsibility to do that, because if the lessons and the resources are available and people still refuse to learn the language, then you can put all the fault on the foreigners. Also, I think there should be a language placement requirement for people who are planning residency here for more than 2 to 3 years. I think people should get maybe a 1 to 2 year grace period for not learning the language. That's totally okay. But if you're gonna be here 3 years plus, you have to learn at least to an A2 level. Poland needs to be a little bit more strict on the language, because how many years before Poland no longer becomes the official language, right? It becomes English. And a lot of people don't believe me, but if you go to countries, for example, like Finland, they don't even really speak Finnish anymore. Everything's in English. So this can happen a lot quicker than you think. One thing that she said is that Polish people are very closed. That's why most of her friends are foreigners. And I totally agree with her. I do think that Polish people are very, very closed. And a lot of people that you meet here, they have friends that they've been friends with since they were young, right? So as a foreigner, it's very, very difficult to integrate into that. I don't think it necessarily comes from a bad place. I think the language barrier is a big deal though, Because yes, I can speak English with my Polish friends, but you never really get to know somebody's true personality until you speak with them in their home language. And if you're at home or you want to relax, you don't want to speak a second language, you want to speak your native language. So I totally understand that. If you guys are curious, I have made several videos talking about my Polish language journey on my channel. I have a new video with my 9-month progress, and then I'm gonna make one at my 1-year progress as well, so stay tuned for that. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree or disagree? Let me know down below, and I will see you on the next one.